I want to start by talking about this HPV vaccine. Now, this was a vaccine that was introduced into schools a number of years ago, and the HSE and those in the health services in this country say that the reason they are imploring as many young teenage girls as possible to have the HPV vaccine is to avoid cervical cancer. Now, there is debate and controversy over this HPV vaccine. We've spoken many times about it on this radio programme to concerned parents who believe that in some cases where their daughters received this vaccine, it has impinged their health greatly. And as a result, I suppose there has been a lot of controversy over it. But I was quite interested to read that the Teachers Union of Ireland have passed a motion asking for a review of this HPV vaccine programme in second-level schools. And the motion was brought by the Leitrim branch of the Teachers Union of Ireland. It was proposed by Mr Wynne, who joins me on the line now. Sean, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to talk to you, and thank you very much,
Thanks very much
for joining us. You told the TUI conference last week, Sean, that health centres or clinics are a more appropriate place for this medical vaccination to be administered rather than in schools, because the policy is that the vaccine is actually administered in the school.
Correct. Well, since, going back quite a distance, vaccination programs have been always taking place in schools, whether at primary or second level.
I remember it well.
Exactly. Everybody remembers the jab. But it's since 2011 that there has been a noticeable change and a number of incidents, and even defining what do you consider an adverse reaction in the protocols that exist between the HSE and the actual Department of Education. They talk about an adverse reaction. But if you were to ask your listeners to ring in this morning, how would they define an adverse reaction? Everybody will have a different interpretation. So that's the first major contention. And the second then is, if a girl is feeling unwell after the event, who exactly is responsible? The chain of events that happen, who should she contact? The parents, the school itself? What is the responsibility? And it's from that perspective that the TUI, we in Leitrim, put forward the motion, because in the length and breadth of the county, in staff rooms and at union meetings, there's a discussion around the number of girls then missing as a result of the vaccination.
Now, you teach in Drumshanbo Vocational School, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you're making the point, I understand, at Congress that up to 3 girls in your school claim they suffered from reactions to this HPV vaccination.
Yeah. Well, that's correct. And the number of events, the follow-on from that then is that, there's a reporting procedure in place that's run by TUSLA. It's just the National Welfare Board that was taken over by TUSLA. If there's over 20 days missed by any pupil, boy or girl, there has to be a referral form completed. And what it again raises the issue is, why are these girls missing this amount of time? And, from that point of view, that as part of the review, that it would request both the Department of Education, the HSE, TUSLA and the Department of Health to carry out an investigation to see, is this all a coincidence? Because remember, in the primetime programme, or indeed the TV3 programme, it was all put down that these girls would be the way they are even if there never was the HPV vaccine. So there's that, quandary there to say, on one hand, these girls would be the way they are if there never was the vaccine. But for the parents and the girls that suffering in silence, and the teachers that has to see the vacant seat, where is she today? Oh, she's feeling very tired and she has a pain in her head and she has brain fog. And, that's why it takes you to where in your introduction you talked about health centres, that the only people that's professional in all of this is the GPs with the health centres that's available, that they have the expertise, they know the family history, they know the girl's history. The girl has been going there, since they were probably born. So why would you want to continue with something that there is reactions to? And it's accepted that there's adverse reaction. And as I say, the difficulty is quantifying what that adverse reaction and the long-term implications, in some cases, as I say, in our case, up to 3 girls.
Yeah. Now, neither of us are medical experts, nor indeed is
Absolutely,
Simon Harris. But he was out last week saying there's no scientific evidence that this HPV vaccine causes any long-term illnesses.
Well, I would say that, Deputy Harris, is new to the position, and he'd be under a lot of pressure to show that he's the hard man and he won't take any compromise. And as I said, the delivery, say to the IMO conference, wasn't politically correct. In all these girls are out there throughout the country, and if we'll continue, you know what I mean, it has to be dealt with at some stage. And some Minister for Health at some stage is going to have to sit down with the parents and the girls to discuss what's happening, whether it's in Mayo or in Leitrim or throughout in
Ireland.
Cork or Kerry.
Yeah.
It's an issue that, as you know, as again in your introduction, you talked about it being discussed by concerned parents. I mean, even if it's not any connection whatsoever with the HPV vaccine, it is extraordinary that in the last 5 or 6 years that there has been a greater number of girls, and the official figures are there with TUSLA, because the referral process is already under the welfare board is already in place to back that up. So they have the raw material there to start the research to find out, is there any connection, or is it a coincidence?
Let me clarify one thing, Sean. The Teachers' Union of Ireland are not coming out saying that you shouldn't have your daughters vaccinated.
Absolutely. Nor am I in any way inferring that it's only that people need to have all the information available, and that the parents are happy with the process that's in place in relation to the delivery of the vaccination. And a review would look at all the issues, all the elements involved in it, because I believe there's major gaps and there's major unanswered questions.
All right, there's loads of calls coming in, I understand, on this subject, and I'm not surprised, because every time we bring it up, we do get calls. What's your take, Sean, very briefly, on Dr. Rory Hanley? He's a GP based in Drogheda, and he was saying in the Irish Medical Journal this week that parents who don't get their children vaccinated should have their child benefit halved.
Well, all I'll say is that, in fact, Dr. Hanley was on the IMO Council back in 2009, 2010. So was it, first of all, a representative view of the position of the IMO? But, I mean, in a country where we're supposed to live in a republic, I mean, you're supposed, the citizen of the state has responsibility, but equally, the professional people that run the state have to be professional about what to do and say. And I think it's unfortunate that remarks like that do nothing to resolve the situation.
Okay, he wants this no jab, no pay policy. It was actually introduced in Australia last year, and has led to a significant increase in the number of vaccinations.
Well, if you can't sell the merit of something, do you have to use the bully by tactic to achieve it? And that's the old, look at where, say for instance, the whole issue of water in this country. If the people had sat down, and even within Fine Gael as an organisation had discussed the whole thing before it ever went out into the wider population, would we have been today in relation to water and the whole issue of, I'm sure, all the programs that you have covered water as an issue. So even though we're, shy of 100 years of a democracy, the problem is with people is that there's so extreme right-wing positions on material. You need to bring people along with you. You need to be able to talk to people. And unfortunately, Minister Harris up to now, has been very reluctant to get involved in the process.
OK, if you're a parent and you're concerned about this HPV vaccine, call us 1850 506000. Sean, stay there for a moment. We've just been contacted by Senator Rose Conway Walsh, and I know in the past, Rose, you've been covering this issue. Where are we at with it? Good morning.
Good morning, Tommy, and good morning, Sean. I very much welcome the move by the TUI to put this forward, because it's like Sean said, there is like a fear behind it. We have trying to get answers to the questions that we are putting forward and that we've been putting forward for months now. It's met with a blank all of the time. And it's just this thing, it's like, as Sean was saying, the bully boy tactics of, well, you do it or else. Without having these questions answered, there is a whole lot of young girls around this country who there is no explanation for their symptoms. And that needs to be addressed. Now, we, Gerard Crowell and myself in the Seanad, have asked for a full debate on this several months ago. And the fact that the TUI have put it forward now, again, will help us in securing that debate, I hope, within the Seanad.
Well, you can talk all you like, with no disrespect to the Seanad or indeed the Dáil itself, but talking is cheap.
We have to use every mechanism that's available to us to get answers to what's happened here. Now, if it's a thing that and I'm not saying what the conclusion will be, if it's the conclusion at the end of the day, this vaccine is perfectly safe and it's proven it's perfectly safe, no matter what the genetic makeup of the girl is or what the predisposition is, then that's perfect, that's fine, then it's the right thing to do to go ahead with it. But there are so many unanswered questions. So we have to use every mechanism available. I thought it was quite deplorable as well that it seems like there's the group of parents that have young girls affected by this, the regret group. What it seemed to me was that instead of answering the substantive questions that were being put forward, there was an attempt, and this really worries me, there was an attempt right across the board to discredit these parents. And I don't think that that's the way to go forward. I don't think that that's the way to have a thorough and mature conversation and bring the evidence forward and let everybody be satisfied. If it's the right way to go, certainly go with it. But let's hear the evidence to the contrary and make the right decision around it. There's too much at stake. There's girls lying in beds around this country that, cannot move once, that were wonderful at sport and at many different things. And after having that vaccine, they have these symptoms. So let's disprove that it's not connected to the vaccine.
Okay.
So I would want to thank Sean and the TUI for bringing it forward, and we look forward to working with them going forward.
Rose, thank you very much indeed for that. Rose Conway Walsh, Senator. Sean, last word to you. A lot of texts from people wondering, do the teachers or the boards of management of schools have the power to say to the HSE, sorry, we're not allowing you into our school to vaccinate our young teenage girls. If you want to vaccinate them, make arrangements with the GP or the local health centre?
Well, as you know, the Board of Managements of schools would be set up with 2 parents' representatives, 2 teachers' representatives and 3 local public representatives, and the principal acting as the secretary to the board, who has no voting rights. Under Circular Letter 0053 from the Department of Education, it is at the discretion of the Board of Management whether they would invite anybody, which would include the HSE, into the school. So if the principal, and he's obliged to do it, bring it to the Board of Management. He can't unilaterally make the decision himself. It has to be brought to the Board of Management. They actually accept that. And if parents or politicians or whoever's on the Board of Management have reservations, they could ask the HSE to move it to their local health centres. Yes, certainly. But, I mean, the issue still has to be, to address, as Rose said, the multitude of unanswered questions and coming out shouting and earwigs and manning the National Broadcasting Service to, give a propaganda process without any fair reply. Or if someone took, from the HSE arrived this morning on the line to defend the position, it's discussion, and that's what's needed. Discussion is needed.
Okay.
And whether it's in the Senate, as Rose says, or at the Health Committee. But remember one important thing: this decision to introduce this came in Dáil Éireann. The decision was taken in Dáil Éireann, and the only people that can take it out of it is Dáil Éireann.
Okay, Anna, good morning.
Good morning, Tommy. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for calling in. Your daughter, what age is she now?
Can you hear me properly, Tommy? Or will I
No, I can hear you properly, yeah.
Right. My daughter is 19 now. She got the 3 jabs of the HPV vaccine as a 12 and 13-year-old. It was 3 jabs then. They have reduced it down to 2 since. She started to suffer headaches, dizziness, clotted nosebleeds, passing out in the school, heart palpitations, muscle fatigue, pain in her legs, pain in her joints. And this escalated to a situation where she ended up taking out her appendix, which is pretty common at that age, but because her immune system was already so low, her symptoms accelerated further. She had pancreatitis. She was in for major investigations for the headaches were so bad that she was on the floor screaming with pain. She had ongoing stomach pains, nausea, throwing up every night. She was never well.
And was this in the immediate aftermath of having the vaccine?
Yeah, basically, Tommy, this has been going on 6 years. So it started immediately after the 3rd jab of the vaccine, and she hasn't been right since. And as we speak, I'm now and I'm actually quite upset this morning because I'm in hospital for the last week with her, again. And it's just very difficult for parents,
So she's not able to. She's not in college, is she, at the moment? So Anna.
She was actually one of the luckier girls, or the most determined, in that she made it to college. But she's under the disability service, so she could have one lecture and then spend the rest of the day in bed. She could have a couple of good days where she could manage throughout the day. So we have a lot of support systems in place for her. But I mean, my daughter was a very happy-go-lucky, vibrant, sporty, healthy. She didn't have one health issue leading up to this vaccination. And this consent form came home from the school, and it was a glossy brochure saying that this is a very safe vaccine. They labelled it as a cervical cancer vaccine, even though it is an STI vaccine covering a few of over 100 strains,
Yeah. Okay.
And I was happy to sign up on that, but they didn't give us the full risk information, and now she is suffering the very side effects that I didn't get to see before she got the vaccination. And, she was meant to sit her first exams this week. She's heartbroken. She's in here a week. She'll probably be here for the next week, if not more. They're doing extensive immunology testing now to see what's wrong with my daughter's immune system. You have all these thoughts in your head, because when you don't have a functioning immune system, you're susceptible to a lot of very nasty diseases.
Yeah. I just want to stop you there for a second. We were contacted by a GP. He says, I'm disgusted that you're allowing a side to be put that puts young women's lives in danger. Rates of cervical cancer have decreased due to this vaccine. There has been no connection found between vaccines and any of the conditions that these groups are peddling. Medicine is based on scientific evidence. There's absolutely no evidence to show any dangers from these vaccinations. Anecdotal evidence is not scientific evidence. Vaccines have been shown to save lives.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
By saying we now have 50,000 reported post-HPV vaccine adverse events in the US. There is over 8,000 reports made in the UK, and they reckon that 1/3 of them are of more serious nature. There's over 2,000 girls in Denmark who suffer exactly the same cluster of symptoms, because this is a cluster of symptoms, not one symptom, as the girls in Ireland, in the States, in Canada. I mean, there was a court ruled in the favour of a Spanish family only a few weeks ago who died because she had asthma following the HPV vaccine, and they ruled that this had contributed to her death. And here's my daughter lying up in hospital when she should be out getting on in her life, and all these other girls in this what he is labelling campaign group. We're all parents of girls who we love, who we want to see succeed in life, who are now chronically ill due to this vaccination. Are we now going to be on top of that, labelled scaremongers?
Okay.
Fake stories. My daughter's crying up in her bed because she's being labelled a fake story by her Minister for Health. Is that fair?
Okay. Anna, thank you very much for talking to us. I have to leave it there. I appreciate your call, and I appreciate there's loads of other parents calling in as well. And also Sean Wynne. Sean, I don't know if you're still with us there.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I mean, that story from Anna, have you heard it before?
I have heard, yes, indeed. And there's just about 8 miles from where we live another girl who has a very serious medical condition. And, the truth, the saddest part of all, is that nobody is willing to sit down and discuss, what exactly the potential of the vaccine. Like the doctor, a medical doctor, who are we to question that what he has said? And that's the standard textbook delivery. I mean, Official Ireland will do their one page and stick with the one page, and that fits all, and you can't question it. I mean, look at back years ago, if you go back to the blood transfusion and hepatitis C, there was a lot of women told it was all in their head as well, and it took a tribunal. And at the end of the day, very little was found in the tribunal. So will it take another tribunal in 15 or 20 years for these girls? In the meantime, we continue to vaccinate without questioning it, blindly questioning it, and march on. And the politicians have to take responsibility because, as I said, they're the people that introduced it, and they're the only people that can tell the statutory agencies whether, there's so many, you could list them off. HICWA, there's the HSE, there's the advisory body to the HSE, there's the HPRA, is the complaints board that you go to. They in turn go to the European Medicals Board, who go to the World Health Organization. So it's a massive maze for a parent out there, a granny or a mother listening out there this morning, wondering, could we be their child or grandchild being the unlucky one that got that vaccination? And no medicine and no science, unfortunately, will convince people without coming out and having a transparent investigation.
Okay. All right, Sean.
Review, yeah.
I've got to go and leave it there, but thank you so much for your time this morning. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thanks. That's Sean Wynne there. He's a teacher in Drumshambo Vocational School, a member of the Teachers Union of Ireland, who actually proposed that motion asking for a review of the HPV vaccination programme in second-level schools. And I again emphasise what the Minister is saying. He says, and I quote him directly, people need to be aware that a personal decision not to vaccinate has a wider public impact. Such a decision may put their own life and the life of their child at risk, and it may also put a risk to other vulnerable individuals that they come into contact with. People with a reduced immunity, such as sick and elderly vulnerable patients, pregnant women or small babies who have not yet completed all their vaccinations. That's what the Health HSE are saying. You've heard the other side of the story, so I guess you've got to make your own mind up. Thank you for all your calls. I'll get to more of your texts shortly. It is approaching 20 to 10. On the vaccine, so many calls. Let me go through some of them. This one says the proper information leaflet for the HPV vaccine states quite clearly that the side effects do include all of the serious issues that now affect the many girls whose lives have been destroyed. However, parents are not given the full explanation leaflet. The texter asks why. This one says, my daughter is suffering the same symptoms as Anna's daughter. She had the vaccine just last year. Jackie says, thanks for airing a controversial subject. Ireland has to become open and transparent. Thank you, Jackie. This texter says parents of boys are currently being offered the HPV vaccine as of next September. Does this mean that teachers are going to be faced with double the number of casualties in the classroom? Take it into the GP's surgeries, the family GP, who not only knows the child, but the entire family history. And Lee, thank you very much for your long text. Lee says this vaccine should be administered in a doctor's office where the child can be monitored properly and where a file can be easily obtained by parents. The school only facilitates the immunisation board to administer the vaccine. They do not hold any information there as to what was given to your child. In my case, my daughter received all 3 vaccines by an independent company. So when I contacted the immunisation board, they had no record on file, nor had the school. It took some time to find out who actually administered it. The text goes on, there were notes on her file that read that she experienced vomiting and had to be put into a recovery position. I was not notified and only learned of this information when I requested her file. Also, parents should be given a copy of the manufacturer patient information leaflet and not a washed down version given by the HSE. So, who can parents turn to when a child develops an adverse reaction? The Minister for Health has a lot of answers to answer for over 400 girls across this country suffering adverse reactions to this HPV vaccination, and no provisions put in place to address their ongoing side effects. Are the HSE not a little bit curious as to what is making our girls sick? And that's from Lee. Maureen has been in touch as well. She says, can you please remind school principals and school boards of management that the Department of Education and Skills clearly state that school management are responsible for health and safety at school. HSE immunisation staff are visitors to schools and they must comply with school health and safety procedures and protocols in relation to the sending home of sick children. Now, Maureen's email goes on. She says, HSE make children who have a reaction to the HPV vaccine whilst at school lie on mats on the floor, and they send children who have been unwell back to class without contacting their parents, the school principal or the school health safety officer, or sending any additional warnings home to their parents. HPRA run advertisements on the national media advertising to the public to take just 3 minutes to read the manufacturer's patient information leaflet that comes with your medicine. Yet, they know that the HSE refused to give parents the manufacturer's PIL that should come with the HPV vaccination. When I contacted HPRA to highlight this, they said they have no role in the regulation or supervision of the HSE. Who can parents turn to investigate? HICWA say they have no remit to investigate this matter. And that's from Maureen Sheehan on the text this morning. There are so many more. Just very quickly, a few more. This one says, Tommy, my now 14-year-old daughter received the HPV vaccine 2 years ago. Since then, it has literally robbed her of her childhood. She was once referred to as a child sitting on the sideline watching her life go by. She can no longer play sports. She can't socialise with her friends. She was always the first child ready for PE. Now she sits on the bench and watches her friends as they do it. She suffers pains in her feet, limbs, back and neck, horrendous headaches, extremely heavy, painful and prolonged periods, and her blood tests have come back showing that her immune system has been effectively completely ruined. This vaccine has robbed her, in my view, of her childhood, and I'm so angry that I wasn't given full information when being asked to sign the consent form. Considering that I received the consent form at 4:30 on a Thursday afternoon, and it had to be returned by 9 the following morning, meant that I didn't have time to do my own research. Not that I thought that she would have any side effects anyway. My biggest regret is trusting the information given by our government and the HSE and putting my signature on that form. I live with the guilt of that every single day. This texter says that as a parent of a teenager, he's very worried about the way this country is going. If somebody doesn't want to get a vaccine, they should have the right not to get it. We are becoming close to a dictatorship. And lots of other calls coming in as well on that subject. Thank you for them all. 27 minutes past 10.